Well, good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Automation Summit 2020. I'm your host, Dale Hall, the CMO of SnapLogic. Another virtual event. Obviously, you're probably attending a bunch of these. It feels very strange just to be doing all this online. In fact, one of the things that I think could make this seem a little bit more normal is that I would usually have a walk-up song. So I'm just going to do that, right? Morning, everyone. Good morning. Good morning. Okay, that feels a little bit more normal to me. It feels I'm ready actually for that live event. So here we are today. I am going to share my screen and we will get underway. Just bear with me 1 second. I will share that and I will hit presenter mode. So I'm assuming everyone can see that. I really hope everyone can see it. Otherwise, someone's going to text me on my phone and say they can't see it. So welcome to the summit. What do you expect from today? What do I think? What does the rest of the SnapLogic team is going to give you today? We think this is going to be your light bulb moment. What do we mean by that? Well, you're here with actually about 1,000 of your new closest colleagues, friends, and allies. And we're all here to help you. We're going to show you a vision of enterprise automation, and we're going to show you some of the things that you should be thinking about as you try and transform your enterprise. We'll go through some of the pain points that other customers have been experiencing, and we'll show you basically better ways to solve those problems. Don't make the same mistake. Learn from us. Learn from our customers. The motto for today is to think big and act bigger. And guess what? SnapLogic's here to help you. Because the hard truth is, we all still need it. Okay, there's a lot of things being developed. We're all in the midst of a pandemic, but we're still faced with these problems. We did a recent Vance and Bourne survey that basically said we still, as businesses, feel like we're missing out. We're missing out on revenue opportunities, and we're also basically looking at the data that we have going through our organizations and saying something's not right. We still feel like we're not getting to that point. This is 76% and 77% of us feel like there's still more that we can do. So that's why we're here today. Why else are we here? What else are we going to do other than show you some of those problem solving? Well, the way I want you to think about today is we're all friends. It's not 1,000 of us just listening to someone present. It's just me and you, or it's the presenters and you. We're just hanging out with our closest friends. Only instead of solving like, should someone break up with someone else, or what kind of pants I'm going to wear for Thanksgiving dinner. We're just a group of friends, but we're solving problems around integration and automation and orchestration and all the IT challenges that I know we all have. So what do I expect you to get out today, all you attendees? Well, first off, you get information. When you turn information into knowledge, that becomes power. So I want you to turn that knowledge today into power, so you can go and improve who you are and get better every day at your job. We also want you to connect with others. This is one of the best platforms we've used. Again, I know it's not as good as being all in a room and sitting at a table, but this is as close as it gets. So learn from others, learn from your colleagues, learn from your peers, ask people questions, ask SnapLogic questions. We're here to help. So learning, make sure you connect with others. And what we hope is that by the end of today, you will have learned things that you can take back into your daily job. Tips, tricks, best practices, whatever you want to call them. The whole point of you spending these hours with us is so you can actually get something from it. So more knowledge and experience, connect with others, and really be able to drive the business. We're not doing this just because we have nothing better to do with that day. Okay, so we'll get started. You met me in a second, but I'm going to introduce you to our founder and CEO, Gaurav Dhillon. And then after that, two of our senior leaders in the organization, Craig Stewart, our CTO, and Michael Nixon, our head of product marketing, will take you through the vision for enterprise automation and how that's going to come to life. And then we're proud to have one of our external speakers, Mike Settle. He's a 7-time CEO and an author, and he's going to give us some industry view on what he's seeing around from his experience and what he's seeing going on in the market. So stay tuned for that. We have amazing customers, and today we have amazing customer speakers. I shout out to all these customers who volunteered their time, who worked with our team to make sure that presentations were ready to go. It's a short window, it's all virtual, so it's a different experience, but these customers have worked with us. They're amazing customers, leading a lot of innovation in the market. So pay attention, and hopefully you'll get some of the best practices from some of the things that they're doing. All right, finally from me, a couple of housekeeping things. A couple of things that I think are important that you should know. One is, if you're in this remote platform now, try and keep this tab open. That will be always come back to that tab when we come back to the main stages or after breaks. That's the place to keep coming back to. The keynotes will all be on the main remote platform, and then there are links to the breakouts. So the breakouts will be in a traditional type Zoom. On that page is all the links. So keep that handy, keep that open. And remember, we've invested in this platform, in this remote platform, so we want you to engage. It's not just so we can present these slides better. It's so you can actually connect with other people. Again, it's not face-to-face, but this is about as close as it gets. Okay, if you have questions for us, for any of the speakers presenting, we will try and get to questions that appear in the chat. But I would tell you that because there's always a lot going on, if we don't get to the questions in the chat, we'll try and answer them afterwards, and we'll send a follow-up. In the breakout sessions, in the smaller groups, it might be a little bit easier, so the speakers will handle that as they go. And finally, on that intro video, you should have some of the descriptions of where to go for tech support on the actual event floor. So when we drop out of these presentations and you're on those table topics, there's a technical support table. So make sure you go there if you have any other questions or for some reason things aren't working as they should. That's it for me. So at this point, what I have to do is, for a second, I'm going to stop sharing and I'm going to introduce our founder and CEO, Gaurav Dhillon. He should be jumping onto the stage. 1 second. Normally I would applaud. Gaurav would have another walk-up song and he would come and join us. There he is. Live and at 5 and unmuted, perfect on timing.
Got it. I'm getting the hang of this Minecraft conference here.
Right. So I will now try and drop myself, share the screen, and you just tell me when you want to move forward.
Great. Thank you, Dale. Thank you for the kind introduction. There you go. All right. So like Dale, when you do these for the first time, and we've done a few dry runs, you know and hope that someone will come in and text you if things aren't working well. I have not received a text, so here we are. So let me share with you that I have been waiting for this day for years. As some of you know, I've been in the integration business for decades. Prior to this, I co-founded Informatica. We built that into powerhouse in the last century, in the early parts of this one. And since then, we've been building some amazing things at SnapLogic. And, it's been something I've been looking forward to get a gathering of this type, to share where we are, where we're going, share some of the customer successes so people can learn from that and go and apply the technology, and also share some of what's over the radar, over the horizon, coming from SnapLogic and the way in which we innovate. So really pleased to have you guys here, and I look forward to continued dialogue as we move forward. Let's jump into our next slide, please. So from a perspective of watching lots and lots of data warehouses being built, lots and lots of SaaS applications being built, you develop sort of a perspective, and then you start to think deeply, and I dare say more meta, and say, what can we do, and what is the unique capabilities we can provide in our platform so we can add a lot more value to our customers, so they can solve problems faster and they can get a lot more reuse as they solve these problems going forward. These problems are changing. So if we go to the next slide, I'm going to share a little bit of what those changes are. You all know this because you deal with this. Many of you are practitioners. Many of you are customers of ours, so you know this. We've worked on these things together. But it bears repeating that the sheer type and amount of data that we have to manage in the enterprise today is completely at a different size and scale than used to be in the last century. Most of the data that we deal with today is unstructured. I would go so far as to say, by the time this conference is over, we will see in the world more unstructured data. In just these couple of hours, we would have produced more unstructured data in the world than all the relational data since time began. And that is the size and scale at which we're doing things. Not only is the sort of the volume of it that large, a lot of it, as you'll see from some of the presentations and as you tackle some of these problems, is data that's highly unstructured. It is data that comes from the web. It is data that comes from sensors. And these sorts of things are deep changes that platforms need to cater to. You know, ETL has become sort of a notation. Little did we know when we started the Lost company in the 90s, little did we know that ETL would become an industry. But now it's sort of become like a shorthand for connecting things. How do you, oh, let's ETL that, or let's do that. And I always find it amusing to see that. But, you know, ETL needs to move beyond batch. It needs to move into real time, into streaming. And you'll hear some parts of our thinking in a presentation by our CTO, Craig Stewart, on how we are responding to that and have been doing that for years. And in fact, this morning, we put out a press release jointly with one of our largest installations, Siemens Digital Industries, which is a huge company at a tens of billions of dollars scale, where they've gone live with some of our technology, and they're using Kafka streams alongside SnapLogic to tackle some of the challenges of digitizing and transforming their own business. So this needs to happen, and you will see that this is happening in how we go out and address it. And please come to that session with Craig and see what you can find there. And also, the ETL world is changing. There's now a twin in the cloud, ELT. Not only can we ship functions, we can ship data. So some of the capabilities from SnapLogic, some you'll hear from customers, some you'll see in upcoming months, is how not only do we do ETL, but also cater to some of the ELT functionality, which is a much more popular modality in cloud data warehouses, like the ones from Amazon Redshift and Snowflake and SAP Data Warehouse Cloud and others. And then, as we think about what the future holds, we are going to continue to see more and more applications. You know, one could, and I had the good fortune to build an integration company where the most important apps were like less than 10. You know, in the last century, we had Siebel, we had some ERP, you know, some supply chain, and there's 5-10 major enterprise apps. Now you walk into an enterprise, and it's not uncommon for the CIO to say, hey, we have hundreds of apps. And it's, in fact, one of the best answers I've heard was I typically ask the CIO if I meet her or him and say, well, how many apps do you have? And you know, one of them said, I don't know. We just bought a company yesterday and we haven't counted them yet. So in this sort of situation, we've got to think about how do we connect all that? How do we prevent some of the issues around sprawl? And how do we promote reuse, et cetera? And last, but perhaps most importantly, what the technology has given us is a capability to keep up with these challenges. We find that legacy integration products fall further and further behind because they're on-premise and people are using just old versions of them. So as we think through these kind of challenges, we feel we can address these challenges and more by using the very advances in technology that could be creating those challenges for us. So using horizontal scale out to deal with larger and larger data volumes, using new capabilities in SnapLogic pipelines. You pick the flavor. Is it ETL or ELT? Using the snaps that we have built. We have also been building snaps to the point where we have over 500 of them. And in our case, betting on a SaaS platform so everybody has the same version of our technology has been very vital for us to see. So we think the opportunity is to use the advances in technology to solve these problems and to get them from a higher plane. If you go to the next slide, please. I believe there aren't enough Java programmers and SQL DBAs in the world to tackle this on a manual basis. I firmly believe that we have to continue to provide leverage in our platforms. We have to continue to provide greater and greater leverage in how we solve these problems. And as a result, we feel enterprise automation is the answer. If this phone can recognize facial recognition, can recognize our friends, us and our friends and our loved ones when we take their picture, why can't technology in SnapLogic find patterns and prevent sprawl? And that is how we see enterprise automation unrolling for us. We see enterprise automation as integration done right. Done right along the lines of self-service. Self-service has always been a hallmark of SnapLogic solution. I'll share more about that when we think about the future vision. And self-service done right means if somebody wants data if they're a commission analyst in the business and they need data on Scandinavia and then they need data on Denmark, why can't they just help themselves? Why do they have to punch a ticket and wait for somebody to service the integration request that they might have? Integration done right through automation is a federation of interests. You'll hear in a presentation to come from our CTO, again, Craig Stewart, where he'll discuss and introduce the ideas of domains, these you might call dimensions in a data warehouse. But how do we interact with the application developers, the service mesh and APIs, and how do we start to think of a data mesh and have these objects or domains that cut across the enterprise? And then how do we roll that out in a very good way so that businesses can solve these problems and interact with these domains? They can construct these pipelines, but to go into production, they need to collaborate in a federated way with IT, and therefore you can get the best of both worlds. So you hear some of that from us and from our customers as time goes on. Speaking of which, let's go to the next slide, please. We've been very blessed to have many customers across the globe. At this point, we're hundreds of enterprises in over a dozen countries using our product. And I have to take a moment and thank you. These are our patterns. We have some industry leaders in technology from Adobe, Box, many of whom are here, BMC, where Mark Settle was CIO when he brought us in all those many moons ago. In healthcare, as the amount of data has exploded in healthcare, in a variety of industries, like food services, digital industries like Siemens and Healthineers, and in financial services, in higher education, Stanford, Smith, Tufts, lots of other institutions, other food services organizations, and entertainment, and even globally at places like Emirates Airlines in the Middle East and in many installations that we have in Australia, New Zealand, and elsewhere. So I feel very blessed indeed, and I thank you. Many of you have been customers for years, and it wasn't quite such a large group of snaps or large group of customers at the time. So special shout out to you. The early yeast makes the bread rise, and I want you to know that we take this task of serving you with sincerity, and we will continue to do what we say and say what we do going forward as a company as well. So my thanks to you. I also would be remiss if I didn't thank our engineering team. I was looking at some of the stats. We are up to 500 snaps today, as I was mentioning earlier. And what's amazing is we move 1.6 trillion with a T JSON containers through the SnapLogic system on behalf of our customers globally every month. 1.6 trillion JSON containers. To give you a sense of what that is, I saw a headline the other day that said WhatsApp moves 100 million messages a day. Well, that's about 3 trillion messages a month, if you count on your fingers and toes. And, I thought to myself, but those are really small. Most of them are like, hi, mom. Well, that's what I usually use. And if you think about it, SnapLogic is managing data globally at a WhatsApp scale. And, my hat's off to our engineering team who builds and continues to innovate on this platform, continues to grow it out. And, it's come to the point now where when we do these dry runs of every release, running through all the features in every release takes more than half a day, as each engineer who's worked on features shows what they've done and the next one and the next one. It used to take a couple of hours. Now it takes more than half a day, about 4.5, 5 hours of the last release. So this capability, this capacity will continue, and we will continue to make sure that we zoom along as as fast as ever. And in fact, now that we're building on a much larger platform with a lot of capability, you should expect greater and greater amounts of functionality from us in every dimension. And we had just had a wonderful customer advisory board where the top 24 of our customers, CXOs, came in, and it was some very interesting discussions around metadata, what we can do to continue to improve in the areas of data quality, et cetera. So stay tuned. It's going to be an exciting year from SnapLogic. Let's go to the next slide, please. As you know, from our communications, if we had a chance to meet in the past, we are unabashed fans of Apple's approach to consumer technology. Apple has uniquely come forth with some solutions where they have insisted on having the power of and. They have taken something that used to be very hard and they've made it simple, but yet it works in a durable, scalable way. And the hardest part for me from being in the business for all these decades has been sort of, why is it that we see enterprise products that are very hard to use? They may be powerful, but they're very hard to use. And then we see some easy to use products in the enterprise, but they're not very scalable. So our vision has been, will be, to continue to challenge ourselves and to continue to build and grow our products in such a way that they are very powerful and very scalable at the same time. Yes, if you come to our engineering meetings, you will find our user experience team will talk about Bauhaus and Dieter Rams' principles of industrial design at the same time as somebody in the server group might be talking about LMAX Disruptor or some of these ultra high-speed systems from the Linux kernel or some Wall Street trading system where people are trying to get that micro millisecond speed out. So we address these concerns at the same time, and we shall continue to do so because we believe the opportunity for us is to continue to be that supplier that does to this industry what Apple has done to the smartphone industry and give you that ease of use and scale at the same time. And you will hear some of these things from us as time goes forward. But there's a very exciting presentation at the end of the day with Dr. Greg Benson, our chief scientist. He's been with us for about a decade. And he has, and in fact, many of our engineering team are superstar students from his graduate work and from his doctoral teachings. And as we build up to the vision, I had a conversation with our technology folks, with Greg Krishnan and our CTO, Craig Stewart. And I said, why don't we think to ourselves of a mission, sort of like in the last, when there was this sort of JFK moment in the space program where John F. Kennedy stood up and said, we're going to put man on the moon, bring him down safely in less than 10 years. So as we thought about what is the pinnacle for us in the next 10 years, we sort of have challenged ourselves with coming to a point where it's easier and easier to use SnapLogic, where you might be able to lean in and say, hey, SnapLogic, connect my company, and it should. And it's interesting. Towards the end of the day, in the closing keynote, Greg Benson will show you some of our thinking about what we're already started to put on the drawing boards. And as the years and the releases go by, we're going to make it more scalable and easier to use with every passing day. So fingers crossed on that one. Next slide, please. To my parents for many things, but I will say the best thing was teaching me how to learn. If we can teach our children how to learn, then they can learn this thing or that thing, and they can continue to grow. So our primary objective here from this user conference, and again, it's strange to do it in this online manner, but you got to make the best of what you have, and is for us to be able to tune in, listen, question, review, and make sure that we can make our technology better. We make sure we can make you more successful. And in this manner, we believe we will continue to grow and make some wonderful things happen. I believe I have one more slide, and then I will hand it over to you, Dale, after this last slide. So as I wrap this up, it is wonderful to virtually see all of you. I look forward to a time when we are not in a global pandemic. And, it's going to be a tough winter. people in the company close to us. Some, some of one of the kids, one of our managed team meeting, etc. People who are healthcare providers on the front lines have been affected by this, and I'm sure you too, in your ways, have had some impact in your region or in someone close to you. But I'm here to tell you that it's going to be a tough winter, but we will get through. And I look forward to having this conference in person. I believe we're going to have 2 of them next year, and meeting many of you in person, because that is ultimately still the best way to go about doing this. So thank you again for coming to our conference. Enjoy the conference and all the presentations ahead. And I look forward to being in touch. Thank you.